could keep going with that. So much fun. Hey, friends. Eric Andres, your guitar sage here, and today, friend. Oh, that was a little Def Leppard, by the way. That's like the stuff that I cut my teeth on as a kid. It's the reason. That's the group. If there was one group that defined me as a young guitar player, it was Def Leppard. I embarrassingly say so. But they had like 2 albums that were absolutely amazing, and then they got kind of poppy, a little bit out of what I was into. But anyhow, welcome, friends. We're back. I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving and all that good stuff and good family time. Today, friends, this is what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about guitar chord construction and how to easily build and understand chords. I promise you, if I'm teaching this stuff, it's simple. I'm not a genius, okay? If I can teach this stuff, you can learn this stuff, okay? Simple math. You can count to 7. You're going to be able to cover the stuff that we're doing today. If you're able to count to 13, then whoo, you're literally going to be minimally doubling your chord vocabulary, okay? Actually, what we're going to be doing today is going to probably quadruple your chord vocabulary, but what I'm saying is after we're done with that, if you can count to 13, then you'll be doubling what we're quadrupling. So, okay, like literally you'll be able to come up with thousands of chords on the fly. So let me tell you really quickly here what we're talking about. If you are one of those folks that you're like, you've got to memorize these different chords, I guess let me ask you, are you one of those folks that have to memorize every single chord and you can't come up with chords on your own? So if someone says, hey, play an F sharp 7th at the, up here, can you do that? After today, you will be able to do that. Okay. Are you one of those folks that you don't understand how chords are constructed, and you're like, well, what's a 7th and what's a 9th and a 13th and all that? Well, friends, today, if you answered yes to either of those, you're in the right place, because today and tomorrow, that's what we're going to be covering is guitar chord construction, basically just using the major scale. We always use this. This is why I tell folks all the time, learn the major scale, because it's our yardstick, if you will, or our measuring tape if we're a carpenter, okay? And here we're a musician, and so we need certain tools. If you know those tools really well, you'll seem like a magician, right? So, for folks out there that question, like, yeah, he says all this, I'm going to learn all this stuff, but I doubt it. Listen, if you've ever learned or watched a magician, and if you're able to get that information from them, hey, man, how did you do that trick? Typically, a good magician will not tell you, but there's some guys out there that are saying, hey, this is how to do it. It's kind of fun. But once you know how to do it, you go, oh, all right, well, it wasn't magic, was it? Listen, it's never magic, right? We just don't know how to get to what it is that we're getting to. And when we don't know why, it seems impossible, it seems out of this world, it seems like something we can't do, okay? You got to get that mindset out of your mind, first off. That's totally folklore, totally myth. We just need to know the hows to get to a particular something, and that's what we're going to be doing today, okay? Just like all the stuff I show you, it really comes down to simple stuff. It's just a matter of you have to apply it, okay? So that's the stuff we're going to be talking about today and tomorrow, 11 a.m. as well tomorrow. I have a PDF for you, so it's really important that you listen, and as I tell you what to do here, go get that stuff, because very, very, very important for what it is that we're going to be talking about. Okay, so PDF is in the description of the video on Facebook, on YouTube. We got Instagram joining us today. Hello, folks. Head over to Facebook and YouTube if you'd like to, number one, for me to answer your question, and number two, if you would like for me to... if you'd like the PDF. Okay, this PDF, we're going to be, let's go ahead and look at it here for just a moment. I'll guide you through it. While I'm talking about this, if you're not looking at this PDF, this is your prompting to go get that PDF, okay? Because I'm going to be teaching you this stuff today, but chances are you're going to need the supplemental stuff, okay? If not, then you have it all in your head already. That's great, but everybody has to learn it. So it's not like one person has to learn it and then someone else who's smarter doesn't have to learn it. I don't care how smart you are. You got to learn this stuff. It's just basic things to understand these concepts, okay? All right, so we're looking at this right here. You're downloading it as I'm speaking. only 2 links for you today. We got the free beginner series right there, and we got Cyber Monday. I told you that dollar special is going away. I wasn't lying. So if you didn't take advantage of it, I'm sorry. Okay, so introduction. You can read this on your own, but essentially what we're talking about here is we're just talking about the simplicity of what it is that we need to know in order to understand and build these chords from scratch. There's really, essentially, a few tiny bits and pieces that one needs to know. Number one, what we call diatonic harmony. Don't be scared about that. Essentially, it's the way harmony looks compared to the major scale. You hear me talk about this all the time, which if this is like the 4th or 5th time you've heard me talk about this and seen this in the PDF, it could be a good idea that you understand it because it's that important. We use it all the time. So this is basically just understanding the fretboard, knowing where the notes are, okay? With all that being said, we don't necessarily need to know where the notes are unless we want to know the name of the chord that we're playing. We can construct a chord, any chord, doesn't matter, 7th chords, 11th chords, 13 chords, name it, some crazy jazz chord. But you may not know, like literally we could just form the chord but still not know what the letter name of the chord is, a G sharp or a G or an A, that sort of thing, okay? So that's what this part will tell you. Okay, a chord is 3 or more notes played together. And essentially what we're going to be doing is we're going to be building triads today, and then we're going to throw a 7th on top of it, and I'm going to show you what all that means. And from that knowledge, you'll be able to build 9th chords, 11 chords, 13 chords, etc., etc. We just need, essentially, we need the major scale. We need the formula for the scale. So you can think about the major scale as being ingredients, and you can think about the formula as being the recipe. Now, if you go to the store and you buy the ingredients and you get the recipe, if you take all that and you put it on the counter, a meal it does not make, okay? You still have to assemble it and make a meal. So what basically I'm presenting the knowledge to you and I'm presenting the tools to you today, but you're going to have to dig in. You're going to have to do some application of this. Duh, right? I know you guys are really smart, and I know I shouldn't even have to say that because you know you're going to have to apply this, otherwise you wouldn't be here, okay? So the major scale, it would behoove you to have a good understanding of the major scale. Just go through this, read it. If it seems old hat to you, then hooray. You're just further instilling those foundational bits and pieces. But I really, really, really highly implore you to read over that. Okay. Now, the crux of the matter here is we want this one little form here. This is G major scale form 1, or G major scale form, 1 octave. So literally, we just need to know this one little area in here, because this scale, what we can do with it, literally, is bring it to any key. That's G. If I want to play in G sharp, I just play the same thing, but just scooched up 1 fret. And I can do this for every key. A sharp, B, C, C sharp, C, D, D sharp, and we could go on. We could have play all 12 keys with the same form. Okay, if you don't understand that concept, you need to, because these are things that are going to liberate you into being the guitar player you want to be. Okay, so you can take that form. You can start from the 6th string root, or you could also do it from the 5th string root, as you can see on the screen here. Okay, so literally this form here is the same exact form as this guy. Okay, so you can start it from the 6th string root. See, here's the 6th string. Or you can start it from the 5th string root. Do you need to know this 2-octave one? It's helpful, because later on when we're building larger scales or larger chords, what I mean by that is 7ths, well, 9s, 11s, and 13s, then these other numbers will help. Okay, so now, after that, introduction to chord construction, I want you to read over this. Today we're going to be talking about major, minor, diminished, possibly augmented constructions. Don't let those scare you, okay? These are words that you have to learn at some point. Every word we learn at one point, okay? And every step is a beginning step for somebody at something, okay? So don't fear this new stuff, okay? Triads. Triads is nothing more than a 3-note chord. And we go over some bits and pieces here with my color-coded system that I use inside the Unstoppable Guitar System, UGS, folks. You know what I'm talking about. So chord formulas, now these are the formulas that I mentioned. These are recipes. So if you say, okay, well, I want to make chili. Okay, well, you need some, black beans, you need some beans, you need some water, you need some tomatoes. You got a recipe, right? That's what this is. It says, hey, I need a 1, a 3, and a 5 from the major scale in order to make a major chord. If someone says, I want to play a minor chord, then you would need the 1 from the major scale. You'd need the 5, and the 3 you would have to flatten. Okay, we'll go over this in a moment. Same thing with diminished. You got dominant chords, yada, yada, yada. We got these formulas, very, very important. And then I included these blank chord stamps for you for your discovery as you're going along and you're saying, hey, I found a new chord. How about that? I rock. And then down here, obviously, you want to make sure that you click on all these buttons and you want to make sure that you subscribe and follow and all that good stuff. Okay, good. Right? All right, so let's talk about it. Oh, I noticed you noticing my new guitar. How about that, right? Yeah, it's a Les Paul. I just bought this from Groon yesterday. It's US made, obviously. It's a straight up studio Les Paul Gibson, and with gold hardware. Isn't that beautiful? It's like a blood red. I just love it. God, it looks so amazing. Anyhow, you guys may see this guitar somewhere later on for something. I don't know what, but you may see it again. You probably will. Okay, so here's the deal. Oh, and also I saw you noticing my beautiful YourGuitarSage hoodie, right? And we're going to make these available too shortly. Beanies, you're going to see some stuff on social media, and soon that store will be open. We've had a ton of people asking about that, shirts and all that good stuff, so just be looking out for that. But more on the chords here. Okay, so here's the deal. We really only need to know, essentially, I'm going to break it down. We need to know the major scale, and we need to know it really well, and we need to know the formula. And we need to know how to use this formula in order to build the scales. Okay, so let's do this. So I'm going to put this guy in the corner here because there's a little bit that we need to know. Okay, this whole half step bit, right? I'm going to assume you know this already for those folks that have been following these broadcasts. So now we're going to just take the major scale, but essentially this right here, this form that I'm showing to you right at the top, the 6-string root G major scale form, 1 octave is this. And you notice the numbers in it, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Or we could call that 8 a 1 because they're the same notes. They're bookends, if you will, of the scale. That's why we call it an octave, right? It's the 8th note's the same. This is a G. The 8th note is a G. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 1. That's the only tool that you need. Then we need to have the recipe. Okay, so we said the best way to do this is to understand chord construction according to the formula here. So major chord. A major chord consists of the first, third, and fifth note scale steps from the major scale. Okay, here's the deal. The rest of it you can don't worry about that right now. It's good to know it though a few different ways. So for instance, if we do this, so let me give you another shot here. So we got our scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. That's all you need to do. You do need to be able to count this stuff. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Very, very, very important, okay? Now, if what we said was that the major chord, the definition of a major chord is a 1, 3, 5 from the major scale, don't add any narrative there. That's all it is. Keep things simple. Don't ask questions. Don't be that guy at the first day of college class or high school who wanted to get brownie points with the teacher and kept asking those dadgone questions. That kid was in every single class with me. Dear Lord in heaven, why did he do that? He knows the answer to it. It's in the syllabus, right? So again, don't add a narrative here. We need the 1, the 3, and the 5 from the major scale. That's all we need. Watch this. Here's a 1. Do we need it? Yep. Here's a 2. Do we need it? Nope. Here's a 3. Do we need it? Yep. 4. Do we need it? No. 5. Do we need it? Yes. And we only need 1, 3, 5, so let's not keep going. So we need the 1. We need the 3. We need the 5. But Eric, the 3 and the 5 are on the same string. I know. I'm glad you brought that up because we need this 5, which is a D. We don't even need to know the name of it. We just need to know that this note sounds like this open 4th string. And so, if we play the 3 notes together, it sounds a little bit like this old G major chord that we play, right? Now this is a 1, a 3, a 5, a 1, a 5, and another 1. But Eric, you said the chord was a 1, 3, 5. It is. That's all the only thing that's represented here. If you make a chili for one person or 1,000 people, it's the same ingredients. It's the same proportions. Okay? We're just making more of it. That's all it is. But in this case here, I guess we're using different proportions because we may be using other 1s and 3s and 5s depending on what kind of form chord we want, but still we're talking about the same flavors, okay? So it's not, we're not making it minor, you know what I mean? Here's a G major one way, here's a G major another way, here's another way, another way. So many different ways that we can do this, okay? That's why some people say, wait, you're playing your G major wrong, Eric. I learned it this way with my 3rd finger up. Okay, cool. You learned one of like dozens of ways to play a G major chord, okay? So think about, really what we want is just the construction of it. So there's our 1, our 3, and our 5. Now, how did I know the other ones really quickly? Just because I've been doing this longer. You will get quick at this too. Now, let's just take the triad, the 1, the 3, and the 5. We're also going to do something different. We're going to do this in the key of D. We did this on the 6th string, 1, 3, 5. But if we want to do this on the D string, or on the A string, or 5th string, but up here at the D note, C, C sharp, D, we can play that same scale form. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Woo! Right? So if I take the 1, I take the 3, and I take the 5. The 3 and the 5 are on the same string, so I need to transpose this 5 to down here. Just use your ear or music theory, whatever. It's not an impossible feat. It's very simple. It may take you a minute. Do it. So we got 1, we got the 3, we got the 5. That's our major G major chord. Sorry, D major chord because the 1 is the D. Okay. By the way, friends, if you haven't right now, take a moment to share this because if you do, it will put you in the running for a lifetime membership to the Unstoppable Guitar System. You know us, we love giving all sorts of stuff away, and as usual, we're going to give a lifetime membership to the Unstoppable Guitar System away for these broadcasts, so do share this in whatever capacity you can. Obviously online because that would help us to find you and award you. Okay, cool. All right, so we got 1, 3, 5. Now, let's go back to this for a moment, right? Now, we said that the minor chord is a 1 flat 3 5. 1 flat 3 5. See it right there? So the 1's the same, the 5's the same, but the 3 is flattened. Flattens when we lower a note, right? Okay, so let's check this out. So we had our 1, 3, 5. So that means the 1 is going to stay the same and the 5 is going to stay the same. And our 3 is this finger right here. So the only thing we need to do, let's keep it simple, right, is this guy needs to be flattened. So instead of a 1, 3, 5, we have a 1 flat 3. So here's the major 3, here's the minor 3. And that's the only difference with the chord. Now if you have several 3's in there, then those will have to be adjusted, okay? But essentially, that's major, that's minor. That's why when you're playing an E major chord, you've got your first finger down. And then with an E minor chord, you have your first finger up. It's because this is the 3rd of the chord, which would help us assume that the rest of the notes are 1's and 5's, right? Because the 1's and 5's don't change, at least as far as major to minor. Now, here's an A major chord. Here's an A minor chord. Notice the difference? So this one note's changing. So what note is that? It's the third, right? Because it's the only note that changes between the major and minor chord. We can assume that the rest of the notes are 1s and 5s. Cool? All right, you're getting this. And if you're not, then it's probably that you just need more of the basics. A lot of that stuff is covered inside of this PDF, but the free course. This free course. You got to do this, friends. It's there for you. My only intention here is that you guys can learn for free. All right, you've got that. So if you like more stuff, then cool. Come along for the ride and get inside the Unstoppable Guitar System. If not, we've had like 100,000, more than 100,000, like 150,000 people getting that free course and that are learning. So way more people that have gotten that course and just took it for free and we never saw them again, and that's fine, or they are watching videos or what have you, than folks getting inside the Unstoppable Guitar System. So we love when folks do that, but nonetheless, it's there for you for free, so do check that out. I forgot to mention this. We've got Cyber Monday specials, and I think they're going through tomorrow, okay? Big specials. I think it's 50% off. I hope I'm right in saying that. Anyhow, okay, so let's go back to this formula here. Okay, so we did the 1, the 3, the minor, the flat 3, and the 5. Let's talk about the diminished chord. Okay, so a diminished chord is a 1, flat 3, and a flat 5. So essentially it's a minor chord with a flatted 5. So let's talk about this the way we did it just now. So here's our D. All right, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3. That guy needs to be flatted. And we got 1, 2, flat 3, 4, here's 5, and our formula said that we need to have a flat 5 there, so it needs to be this. So our notes need to be, since flat 3 and flat 5 are on the same string, flat 3, flat 5, we need to put that flat 5 right here on this other string. Now, don't worry about the fingering. I know this is difficult, but I'm wanting to show you in this linear fashion so it makes a lot of sense. So if here's major, 1 major, or 1, 3, 5, here's 1 flat 3, because we just lowered this a half step. 1 flat 3, 5. The 1 and the 5 stay the same, but then the diminished chord we have a 1, a flat 3, which is there already because we were just on the minor chord, and the flat 5, so we need to lower that a half step. And that's essentially how that chord would look. Now we can play diminished chords all different ways, okay? But essentially, if you understand the construction of these chords, then what it will do is it will absolutely liberate you to be independent, right? So that you're not constantly dependent on a guitar teacher or a book or a reference manual, yada, yada, yada. As I said in the beginning of this PDF, I literally know thousands of chords. I dare say tens of thousands of chords. As I was putting this together here, I came across an article that said something like that there are 2,500 or like 2,300 chords, guitar chords available, and they were using some sort of math. But just from my calculations, it's a lot more than that, and that's not including all the different types of inversions that one can do, okay? You have multiples, right? So think about whatever chord that we have, whatever chord formula that we have, say it's a major chord formula, okay? If I can play that, say, I know definitely I can play it about 15 different ways on the fretboard, just off the top of my head, okay? That's one chord formula. Now multiply that 15 times 12, okay? And that gives us one chord formula. Now, chances are, I bet you I could find 30 actually different ways to play that major triad. So really, probably 30 times 12, okay? And that's just one chord formula. And then when we're talking about all the different inversions and this, that, and the other thing, we're getting into higher numbers. And you got to imagine there's so many different types of chord formulas. Just off the top of my head, I would probably say there's at least 30 or 40 chord formulas, okay? Most of them we don't use very often, but they're there. So if you multiply those times all the different keys plus times all the different inversions, there's so many different ways to play chords all over the fretboard. I'm saying, even though this article was from Premier Guitar and they know a lot of stuff there, I'm saying it's probably in the area of 10,000s. I should break it down one day just because and do an article on it. But nonetheless, so what is that? Why am I saying all this? Is because I've never counted to 1,000,000. I've never counted to 1,000,000,000. I doubt you have too. Why would we? That's a waste of time, right? And it's not like we're scratching our head like, I wonder if anybody's ever scaled that mountain to count to 1,000,000. No, no one has. I mean, I'm sure somebody has out of boredom, but we know we can count to 1,000,000 even though we've never done it, right? Because we understand how the decimals work. We know it goes 1 through 9, and then decimal moves over, right? Tens, hundreds, thousands, tens, thousands, hundred thousands, et cetera, right? We can do this by just using that simple protocol or that simple formula. Well, once we learn these formulas for these chords, instead of us having to memorize thousands of chords, you just build them on the fly and you have an understanding of the guitar neck in a way that you hadn't before. It's way the more simple way to do it, but people they skip over it because they just want a bird in the hand right then. They just want to go to a reference manual and say, I don't need that, I just need this one chord. And they do that for decades. And then they wonder why they don't know their chords. This is why. If they had just taken, well, how long would it take you to read this PDF, right? And study it? Maybe an hour, okay? So there you go. So you have that idea here that we're building these, right? So that you don't have to memorize everything. Okay, now, Eric, so that's great. What about, well, let's look at another one here. Let's look at the augmented chord. The augmented chord doesn't naturally occur in diatonic harmony. Diatonic harmony is, what I mean by that is chords that are built upon the major scale or the harmony of the major scale. That's all I mean. Harmony is when we have multiple notes playing at the same time. And a chord is 3 or more notes, so it would make sense that that's harmony. So an augmented chord is a little bit like a diminished chord, except it's going in the opposite direction. It's getting bigger, augmenting, right? So 1, 3, 5. If we have a major chord, a 1, 3, 5, then an augmented chord is a 1, 3, sharp 5, okay? So if we took our major chord here, D, there's our 1, there's our 3, there's our 5. We don't have to play through the scale to know that to sharpen the 5, we just need to take this guy here and raise it up a half step. Now, someone might say, well, that chord sounds horrible. Just like the diminished chord. The diminished chord sounds horrible. Right? Sounds like some woman's on a railroad track and she's tied down and here comes the train, right? Got that villain. It's gonna get her smashed by this train, right? No. In and of itself, yes, but when we apply it to a chord progression like this, here's our diminished chord. That sounds nice, right? So these diminished and augmented chords, even though they may be a little bit funky for you at first, just understand that they have their place. All right, so we had our major chord, and augmented is when we raise that guy up a half step. So we have a 1, a 3, and a sharp 5. Okay, now we're gonna go to, let's do one more thing here. If the other thing I want you to look at, oh, by the way, here's some of those triads that we've been talking about here. So you don't have to memorize them. You've got them right here. Make sure that you read the labels. Major, 3rd string. And this just means the 3rd string root, means the roots on the 3rd string, okay? These color codes, I talk about this all day long inside of the Unstoppable Guitar System in our chord visualization series, okay? Okay, going beyond this. Now, chord formulas. Here we did major, minor, diminished. We also did augmented, which is not on here. It's earlier in the program. So when we're talking about 7th chords, what we're doing now is we're adding a 7th. We're adding another harmony, another ingredient. As a child, we have very simple meals, right? When my kid sits down for a meal, he has strawberries, vegan cream cheese, applesauce, avocado, like every single day, and he loves it. I would get really bored, right? As adults, as young adults, as older people, we start graduating to other types of food because we get bored with those simple foods all the time, right? Well, in the same way, we've got these simple chords, the triads. We also have seventh chords, and we've got 9 chords and 11th chords and 12th chords, or no, 12 chords, 13 chords. And so what those are different harmonies, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. We're skipping notes because those harmonies sound better, okay? But as you learn more about this subject, you'll see there are reasons to do some of those other harmonies as well, like sixes and that sort of thing. But right now, if we were to create a dominant 7th chord, we just need the formula, but we're still using our scale. Check this out. A dominant chord says, or a dominant 7th chord, what we know is a 7th chord. You've heard it. I used it. That's a D7. Well, if we wanted to use our formula that we did earlier, watch this. We got a 1. Here's, you can see on the screen here, it should be a 1, 3, 5, flat 7. So here we go. Here's our 1, which is the root of the chord. Here's a 1, 2, 3. There's the 3rd. And this note here is the flat 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's our 7. Here's our flat 7. And so I'm playing a 1, 3, flat 7. And here's our 5 up there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I lied. That's a 1. So in this case here, I didn't even play a 5. That's okay. It gives me an opportunity to share with you that not every chord is going to have every single ingredient. Oh, Eric, that's really confusing. I know it is right now, but here's the deal. Think about this. As you start studying theory more, you're going to see that the 1 is the most stable note. And so a lot of times when we play a chord, we might not even play the 1 later on when you start getting to more advanced chords because the bass player's playing that in the band, or the keyboard player, somebody's playing that note. It's an assumed note also. The 5 is another note that is oftentimes assumed unless it's changing the flavor of the chord like in a diminished or augmented chord. I know that probably went over your head, but here's the deal. Just understand that when we're playing a chord, I could play it like that. Here I am going to include the 5, and it's still, it has the same role. In this case here, the 5 is being included. Here it's not, but it still takes on the same role. And the 5 is just a note that it's going to be one of the first notes to go when you start building chords. What do you mean, Eric, the first note to go? When we have, think about it, we got 6 strings. If we have a 1, let's say we're building a 13 chord. We have a 1, a 3, a 5, a 7, a 9, an 11, and a 13. Okay, we could just have 7 notes there, but we've got a 6-string guitar. Well, how in heaven's name will we do that? Well, we're not going to play all those notes. Some notes need to go away. Usually the 1 goes away first, then the 5, because those are the most stable notes, the ones that the ear assumes. It automatically hears it. Okay, it's kind of like, if you don't know what I mean by that, it's like if you're using slang. So if you say, what's up? You know what I mean is, what is up? Or it doesn't even mean what is up. It may mean how you doing, right? We're not asking you for your life story. When I say what's up, I don't want you to pour into everything that's been going on probably. It just means like, what's up? Nah, nothing much. Everything's cool. You know what I mean? So that would be, for instance, of something that's assumed. We do this all day long. We do this in music as well. There are notes that just automatically have a role, and they have such a strong role that sometimes they don't even need to be there for your ear to know that they should be there. You've seen this too probably with like optical illusions, like if you're drawing something, you may not have to draw in everything. For the same reason we can look at the clouds and we can say, oh, that looks like a dog. Does it really look like a dog, or does it look like a puffy cloud with ears that may kind of look like a dog? It reminds us of a dog, right? So we're painting in, we're filling in the other bits and pieces. So essentially, we're going to do that a lot as we're building further, bigger chords, okay? So now, that's all I wanted to talk to you about today. Is I figured we would go up to the 7th chords. That's all we would do. And then maybe what we'll do tomorrow is we'll delve into like 9th chords, 11th chords, 13 chords, that sort of thing, because we still need to do that. But it's really important that you take a moment and go over this stuff. Okay, so this is going to give you a day to dig in so that tomorrow, when we come back, we can truly understand what we're doing. Because, you know, for many of you, you may not have the basics down, and then you're going to be like, well, I don't understand this. No, you're not going to unless you have those basics down. So make sure you do that. Okay. All right. So now let's do this. Let's go to some questions. And today we're going to start with Facebook, and then I'm going to pop over to YouTube. Okay. So get those questions ready. In fact, if you want to, I would say over on YouTube, you may want to wait a minute, just because I'm going to be reading on Facebook here, and then you're going to have to post it again. Okay. With that being said, make sure you share this, friends. Please do share this, and also make sure that you check out the links that are inside the PDF. Download the PDF. Links in the description of the video. Instagram, folks, Facebook, and YouTube is where the action's at. So here we go. Questions on Facebook. Daytona Beach. Bill, what's up? Nice. Cold and snowy in PA. It is cold in Nashville, friends. Floral City. Yes. Now you're talking my language. I'm a Florida boy. I got to get back in that sun. Fort Wayne, there's Cindy. That's where one of my accountants are. Hello, Fort Wayne. Jacksonville. All right, we got a lot of folks from Florida. Hello from Germany. Love it. That's where my dad was born, Berlin. I need to get there. Canada. Hello, cold Canada. Charles wants the hoodie. Yeah. We're going to give some of this stuff away, some of this swag away. And I just got this out of the dryer, so this is a little short. And I think this may be a ladies, which I kind of have a girlish figure anyhow, so. All right, no questions on Facebook. Facebook's like. All right, here we go. So now we're over on YouTube. So there you go. All right, so questions on YouTube. Here we go. Why would an inversion be a different chord? Jim is saying. Jim, it wouldn't be a different chord by name. Okay, so for instance, if I were to take, now this is a bit, let's talk about inversions. What we mean by inversions, just like the word inversion means to invert or to flip something up, right? Upside down or downside up or whatever. Basically, if we have a G major chord, usually that G is in the low note there, right? It's in the bass. But we could also, instead of playing the G with the G in the bass, we could play it with a D in the bass. So I won't play this note here, okay? I'll play it with a D in the bass. So I'm going to lift my finger off of that G, and I'm going to start on the D. So I'm foregoing the G, I'm going to play with the D in the bass. Now someone might say, well, Eric, but isn't that a D major chord? Nope. Watch this. This is how to think about it simply. Here's G major. Here's G major with a D in the bass. Now watch this. If you still don't get it, watch this. Here's G major. Here's G with a D in the bass. I'm just starting on the 5th string now. Here's just straight up G. So it's got that low note in there, otherwise it's a D. So why is this not a D major chord? Is because we're not building that triad off of the D major, it's being built off of the G. So the formula is there. Again, your ear is automatically hearing that low G there, okay? You're just like, okay, cool. I can hear it. Boom, boom. Okay? So we could also start the chord on the 3. You can see that that's a simple way of doing it. So if we have a G, or 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 a G, you get the idea. We're just talking about different inversions. So it's the name, it's the same chord, but we're maybe if we're making a recipe, we're adding things at a different time or more of a particular something. Okay, does that make sense? Cool. Karen, where's the jacket that I'm wearing? Where to get it? We're going to be telling you soon. We're still working on this store. We've had so many people asking about shirts and beanies and stuff like that. We're like, well, let's make some beanies and shirts and ladies' underwear and stuff like that. I've always wanted to be in the ladies' underwear business, so here I am, right? No, we're not making underwear yet, but we will soon. But we're making all sorts of fun stuff. Okay, so be looking out for this. We just literally got a box in. Mike, our designer extraordinaire, who's whittling away right now, probably as we speak, is created some beautiful designs for shirts and what have you. And you guys are going to be seeing them soon. So this is one of them. It's got the unstoppable guitar system. All sorts of fun stuff we're going to be doing, different colors and what have you. So we'll let you guys know about that. It's super fun, right? Okay, good. Here we go. Yes, hit the like button. Thank you, Alicia. Yes, indeed. Share this, please. Do we ship to Barbados? I think. I don't know. I don't know if it's worldwide shipping. I imagine that we would. I'm pretty sure. If I change the tuning, I still find the chords using the same formulas? Yes, except you would not be able to use the same major scale formula. You could use the same linear, like one string scale formula, but obviously if you're changing the strings of the tuning, if you're changing the strings tuning, then you're changing what notes are there that you're expecting to be there that aren't there. So you wouldn't be able to use that same formula, at least as far as the scale formula, but as far as 1s and 3s and 5s and all that, yes, all that's the same. You just would need to find out what your major scale is for that new alternate tuning. Make sense? If not, let me know. Are the PDFs in these sessions the same as the ones in your ebooks, Eric's saying? Yes, Eric, if you have, well, not always, no. I take that back. Eric, no, they're not. I'm constantly adding new information. So there's several new pages in this PDF that have not been released anyplace else, or at least the intro of it, and then some of the other stuff, the color-coded stuff, is only in the visualization PDFs that are inside of UGS. So no, the answer is no. I have a Fender Strat. We can change pickup positions with the switch. What are the two most frequently used pickup positions on a Strat and which is least used? Rahan, it depends on the individual player. They're all used. I like the fourth position the best. And I'd say that's probably the one that's used the most, but everybody's different. So how would you convince a novice player to invest in lessons before spending a ton of money on an expensive guitar? Does it really matter if you start learning on a student guitar? Here's my thought on that. Where there's a will, there's a way. So I started on a cheap-ass guitar with one string, and I didn't need some expensive guitar. I've got nice expensive guitars now. They do motivate me to play a little bit more, but bottom line, I was playing a lot more as a kid on a cheap-ass guitar than I was these expensive guitars. And that's because my motivation was just like, I gotta be a better player. So you definitely don't need an expensive guitar. And that's all I want to say about that. Yeah. Get some lessons though. Dear Lord, there's so many that are free now, right? It's like I've got the free course, I've got the free ebooks. I teach for free, like 20 hours a month here on the interwebs, so got no excuse. Yeah. Acoustic Adventure, thank you. Thank you, buddy. You appreciate my humor. It's more of sarcasm than I think humor. Cynicism would probably be more accurate. Thanks, bud. Okay, Eric, I'm a UGS member and working into the 365. How much time should be allocated between the major chords versus the 365 progression? Peter, so I have a video for that. On YouTube, search 365 Unstoppable Guitar System, and I will give you more detail. Otherwise, this is the way I say it all the time. You want to think about Unstoppable Guitar System as your guitar teacher. That's what it is. It's your guitar teacher. You go there when you want to learn stuff like soloing or chords or music theory or whatever, okay? And you want to think about 365 is, if you don't know what to practice that day, go there. If you know what to practice, go there. Basically, it's just to challenge you in 7 focused areas for 7 days of the week that graduate you 52 times over the year. And you can do it at the end, you can do it every single year, but nonetheless, you get better and better and better at these skills. So what I say is, you know, if you have some so deep study into UGS, but then in 365, what you want to do is, if you're practicing for 5 hours a day or 5 minutes a day, practice in that area, okay, for just like the army, right? You just wake up and you do your thing and you no excuses, you just practice. That's kind of what 365 is about. You just do it, okay? And UGS is more exploratory, like, man, I've never been here before. I really want to learn this stuff. What do I need to know? 365 is more just like, shut up and play, okay? And we kind of need both, you know, depending on who we are. Some players that are like, the reason I developed 365 is, number one, I wanted to bring players from a place of saying they can't, and this is impossible, to a place of going, oh dear Lord, I had no idea what a great player is hidden within me, and it will also allow them to see that their paradigms and the way that they thought their limiting beliefs before in guitar, this is what saved me in so many ways, that the limiting beliefs that I had on the guitar turned into very unlimited beliefs and allowed me to realize that there's literally nothing that I cannot do on the guitar, wait for it, if I practice and I do the work. So it doesn't mean that I can't do it today. There's a ton of stuff I cannot do today, right now, in front of you. But if I say I want to do that and I'm going to do that, and I put in the time and the energy to do it, there's nothing I can't do. There's nothing that you cannot do. You're not born with this shit. You develop it over time, right? You develop it as a human being, or as a being, not even a human being. Animals do this. We're animals, right? We develop, anything is developed. The brain develops. Plants develop. So you can develop. You can get good at whatever you want to get. And so that's what 365 is about. It's kind of my little ninja twist, if you will, on helping people understand that they're unlimited beings via the guitar. So really, I'm just teaching guitar. But I got this other little thing in there to help folks realize that there's anything you want to do, you can do. You just need to get off your ass and do it, okay? When you play chord triads, sevenths, etc., the key has to be first. G in B flat cannot be G in C sharp. Let me see what you're saying here, Stephanie. When you play chords, triads, sevenths, etc., the key has to be first. G in B flat cannot be G in C sharp. Okay, Stephanie, I think you've got part of it here. Here's the deal. When you play chords, triads, sevenths, etc., the key does not have to be first. The key has to be the note that we're measuring all the other notes upon, which I think is probably what you're saying. The key, the tonal center, the root, the one, needs to be the note that we measure the flat 3 and the 5 by, or the 3 and the 5 by. That is correct. But it doesn't have to be the first note, right? Because here is G major. Here is G major. Would you not agree that those sound the same, with the exception of we don't have that low G in there? So your ear knows this already. Sounds like the same damn chord to me, right? Me too. Okay, so with that being said, it does not have to start on the one, but the one needs to be the measuring stick, okay? It's, if you're pulling out the measuring stick or the measuring tape, we need a place to put that at the end of the room or whatever. We definitely need that specific place. That's the one. But inversions mean we can start on the 1, we can start on the 3, the 5, the 7, doesn't matter what note it doesn't matter what note's the lowest note, but we need to use that 1 to measure all the other chords. Does that make sense, Stephanie? Let me know. But that's probably what you're saying, I'm sure. You sound like a smart person. Okay, given a thoughts on marketing guitar picks with your logo on them. Rod, yeah, I want to do that. We need to do that. We will do that. we'll put that on the list. I have some made already. I've got lots. The folks at Dragon's Heart Pick are making them, and then I've got some that I've ordered and stuff like that, but we just haven't really sold them or anything. But we need to. If we can find a way to put that in the store, then we will. I just can't be I can't be sticking picks in boxes all day long. I got to teach you. So if we can find someone to do it, then we will. Okay. You want me to clean that up, huh, Bob? Okay, let me clean this up a little bit for Bob. Bob doesn't like all the overdrive. How about that? That's clean enough, right? All right, sir. Okay, another question here. It says, Stephanie saying, why not do triads in the key of C? C sharp, C flat to show the relevance of key intervals of the chords. So Stephanie, so they look all the same. So let me show you what I mean by that, Stephanie. So for instance, here is D, we said D major triad, right? 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5. If we wanted to do this in C sharp, now hold on to your hat, Stephanie. Watch how difficult this is. Literally, that's it. There it is in one key. Here it is in another key. Here it is in all 12 keys. Watch. Boy, this is a lot of math. There's 12. Okay, so basically, if you just look at the formula, it's going to be a lot quicker than having to go through the math and going, okay, C sharp and D sharp and this, that, carry the 1 divided by the square root of, that beat in the song is gone. You missed the chord, okay? And no one cares about how mathematical we can get with music if we can't play the daggone chord in time. So, Stephanie, what I've found over 30-something years of playing, that understanding these formulas is way more important than understanding the nuances of, is it a sharp, is it a flat, da-da-da-da-da. If you want to learn that stuff, great. And I know that stuff, but I can tell you that I've gone 30-something years without being dead set on knowing every single note and every single chord right off. I'm not even saying them in my head. Dear God, that would be like analyzing every footstep that I made. And I wonder how much weight was on that foot and how much on that foot. Oh God, I hope I'm keeping it even. It's like you just walk, right? So that's why I talk in formulas, because it's so much easier and it's so much of a smarter way of doing things, as opposed to burning a lot of energy and a lot of mind power when really we just want to, just play the song type of thing. Okay, great question, Stephanie. Can you talk a little about mixing in chords with soloing? Are some voicings better than others depending on the scale, major, minor, etc.? Jared, I need you to get more specific with that question, because can you talk about mixing in chords with soloing? So what do you mean, playing chords while you're soloing? If that's what you mean, well, I'd have to know more what you mean so I don't go down a rabbit trail. Are some voicings better than others? No. The voicings are what you prefer. Just like a painter is going to use certain colors, one color is not better than another. It's just better for what that artist thinks a specific application should be. So if they're painting a sun, they might use yellow. But in this case, if it's a sunset, they may be using reds or oranges or something like that. If it's closer towards the sea, they might use reds and oranges, right? So it just depends on what colors you're trying to paint, really. Mark is saying, Eric, when changing chords, I have started to notice if the G string is open, it rings louder and longer than the others. Do I need a setup? It's acoustic, by the way. Mark, there's a number of reasons that could be. I would take it to a guitar luthier. But what you could do is put a thinner string on there. It may just be, it may just be that particular string is loud. It could be that your guitar resonates to a G more than it does the other notes. So everything has a vibration. Okay, this is not woo-woo. This is like everything has a vibration. This has a vibration. Everything has a set vibration, meaning, have you ever seen that old advertisement where that woman's singing and they have a glass? Is it Memorex? I think it was Memorex. But nonetheless, she's singing and there's a glass and she breaks the glass with her voice, right? And then they play it back on the tape and it breaks the glass again. That's because the resonance of that specific glass was the resonance of the note that that woman was singing. So you might have noticed this, that you hit a certain chord and they're, like for me, I've got so many guitars on my walls that certain notes that I hit, a specific guitar will resonate and a string will sound out. It's because it's called sympathetic vibrations, okay? And that's what you're hearing. God, I go off on a tangent sometimes, don't I? Dear Lord. Shut that boy up. Okay. Sandin is saying, how does it work with using a capo? It technically changes the tuning, or does it? Just like the pitch of standard tuning so that we can play the same major chord formula. Sandin, using a capo really doesn't affect anything. It just cuts off what you could be doing down here. So if I put a capo here, then I'm not going to be able to formulate the triad the way that I did it for you because those notes are cut off, but I could come up here and do the same thing. So it doesn't change anything there. Okay? Elizabeth, it's dad humor. Yeah, exactly, right? I get that all the time, which for some reason makes me feel like it might be inferior comedy, the way that it's been said to me by my child and my wife. So, there you go. Okay. I want to know how can you discuss chords? I play in 12 keys every day. Stephanie. Stephanie is active today, and I love that. Stephanie, I'm telling you right now, this is exactly how to do it. You only need to know the formulas. I play in all 12 keys too. You know, if we're thinking about, well, if you're playing in 12 keys already, Stephanie, you probably know this stuff, right? You know, you just need to think of the formulas. If you know the formula, you don't have to know the sharps and the flats and everything. They're there for you. If you want to analyze that, then you could do that. Otherwise, you've got you can find it either way, you know. But the other way is much harder. You're going to have to memorize. Okay, you're going to have to, if you want to do it the way that I think that you keep on pushing towards, Stephanie, you're going to have to learn every single formula in every single key. So let's just say, basically, Stephanie, you're going to need to learn a few thousand formulas. So you need to get started. If you want to do that, you need to go buy a reference book and you need to start memorizing formulas. Just get in a room, get real quiet, open up the book and start on Formula 1. And when you get to like 10,000, then you'll be done. Literally, that's how to do it. Does that sound insane? Because if it does, I think it sounds insane too. That's why I don't teach that. I teach it the way that you're going to really learn it and assimilate it and go home with it and use it every day instantly, as opposed to, or just about instantly, as opposed to opening up that reference manual and then doing it the rote way. I don't know of any smart musician who does it that way. You could, but I tried it like that in the beginning. It was so boring. It sucked the life right out of music for me. Eric, love that you explain things in layman's terms. My question for you is your opinion, preference. Do you like to solo in a key or follow the chord changes? Acoustic, great question. And essentially, you're doing both, okay? So in a key or following the chord changes, if the chords are in the key of the song that you're doing, which they always are, unless you have what's called a borrowed chord, which is just that one or two chords in a row maybe that are going to another key, you got to bring it back to the key always. Otherwise, the music sounds very, very strange. So when you're following the chord changes, you're following the key. Okay, so basically you're doing both either way. If you're in the key or you're following now I should say, following the key or the chord change. If you are playing in the key but you're not following the chord changes, you can think about chord changes as being yet more detail to the key. Okay, so you can be playing in the key and not playing on the chord changes, but if you're playing on the chord changes, then you most likely are playing in the key. Okay. 99.99999% of the time you're playing in the key. It's just with the chord changes, now you're observing the chords, just like in a good conversation. If we're talking about something and you change the conversation to something, if I keep up with you, right, then it makes for a pleasant conversation. But if you change the conversation and I keep talking about the same thing we've always talked about, well, then that friendship's going to grow old. That conversation is going to grow old very quickly. So yeah, following those chord changes is really important. Okay, great. Okay. Matthew's saying, are there one-to-one options with the subscription so a mentor could explain some things if we need it? Are there one-to-one options with the subscription so that a mentor could explain some things if we need it? Matthew, if you're talking about the Unstoppable Guitar System, yes. Well, one-to-one, yeah, I could do one-to-one, but I'm $200 an hour. So I don't think you want to do that. This is the best setting because you can ask the question and then I can get to you right away. Also, I'm answering questions inside the Unstoppable Guitar System all day long, so that's the way to get your questions one-on-one. Otherwise, yes, you can set up a one-on-one appointment with me, but it's very pricey, obviously, because I can't get to as many people at once, if that makes sense. Okay, cool. Okay, Eric, regarding the effing F chord, alternative form where strings 1 and 2 are barred. If you then moved up a full step, would that be an alternate G chord? Thanks. You are the guitar man, David. Okay, thanks, buddy. Yeah, you're 100% right. So look, this formula right here is an F. That's an F chord. Same thing with this one, F. Here's a G. Here's an A. Here's a B, C, D, E. And that's just by knowing the formula, by moving it up and down the fretboard. That's why bar chords are so powerful, right? Cool. Stephanie, thank you. And you got great questions. I love, if someone does it in a kind way, like Stephanie did it, I love to be challenged because it affords me an opportunity to reinforce what it is I'm talking about or to see, maybe I need to go back and think better on that subject. Maybe I don't have something right. Or if somebody's asking the question like Stephanie is here, it's important to always measure what it is that you're saying and that you're doing to make sure that what you're doing is right and it's the best for in this case here, I'm a teacher. My objective is to not make people think that I'm smart, because if I've done that, I've failed already. It's to help other people get along on the guitar. That's it. So that's my goal, is to help people, as many people, get as far along on the guitar as possible. And so if way Stephanie's asking these questions, if I can go, okay, that means other people are thinking that. So how can I help them? So thank you, Stephanie. Okay. Formulas can be easily mapped to shapes. Yeah. Why is the 7th chord called dominant? Ted, that's a great question. And it's kind of a hard one to answer, but I'll do my best. So there are chords that take on certain formulas. Like the military, we've got generals and privates and colonels, et cetera, et cetera. Well, chords, if we think about them like G, and this goes back to Stephanie's question here, if we think about what she said, something similar to this, is that, she said, a G in one key is different in another key. So if we're in the key of G, the G major is a 1 chord. So it acts as the highest ranking official in the military. If we're in the key of C major, our G is a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that is the second most highest ranking chord in our dealio here. It's called the dominant chord because the dominant chord really, 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 really wants to gravitate back to a 1. So essentially, all chords, and you can think about the 1 as the sun in the middle of the solar system and all the other planets revolve around it, right? It doesn't mean that those other planets aren't there, but they all revolve around the 1, okay? And so other chords or other planets have different speeds that they travel, and they have got different roles, if you will. Chords more so because they really have definitive roles in the game of music here. So the 1 is what everything wants to gravitate back to. The 5 is it always wants to pull back to the 1, almost always. But you could go from a 5 to a 4. You can go to a 5 to anything, or any chord from any. You could go from one chord to any other chord. Doesn't matter. But there's certain chords that have certain pulls, magnetic pulls, if you will. And the 5, or the dominant chord, always wants to go back to the 1. We have subdominant, which is the 4, I believe, and there's names for all these different chords, but essentially their name and their ranking, if you will, explains basically what its role is and what the power of it is in regards to its role within a major scale. So, for instance, in the key of G, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, or G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And the chords are major 1, minor 2, minor 3, major 4, major 5, minor 6, diminished 7, and back to our 1. And so that is the structure of the major scale that determines those majors and minors and diminishes, okay? I talk about all that stuff in detail inside of the Unstoppable Guitar System. Obviously, we can only scratch the surface here when we're doing these broadcasts because there's lots of folks watching. We don't know where everybody's at. We have to start at the beginning or the intermediate or advanced levels, and there's so many levels of this, okay? But if you follow it in step-by-step format like I do in the free course, you can't mess up. The only thing you can do is quit and say, I can't do it, which is not you, which is why you're still watching this, okay? So I know who's watching me. I know the kinds of mindsets that are watching me, and they're people who get this stuff. Otherwise, you'd get really bored with my analogies and everything else, and you would move on to something else. You'd like, I'm bored. I got to watch some cat videos. That's not you guys, okay? Okay. Yeah, Matthew added another bit here too, that the seventh chord is built upon the dominant or 5th degree of the major scale, and the 5th degree of the major scale is called the dominant, but even more so as a chord. So yes, Matthew, thank you for adding that, sir. Another from Jack's Florida. Yeah, I love it. So every chord has the same shape to change from key. Let me see if I get this right. So every chord has the same shape to change from key. I think I know what you're saying, Stephanie. Yeah, so for instance, whatever chord that it is that we're picking, then if we just move it up and down the fretboard, it changes the key every time, which is, I believe, what you're saying, Stephanie. So here's F major, F sharp major, G major, G sharp major, A sharp major, and so on. These are all the 12 different keys, like I believe Stephanie's saying. Now, if we wanted to play all the minor chords, then we would just lift that first finger up. That's our third, as we discussed about in our building our triads. So now we've got all the minor chords. Every time we're playing in a different key, which makes this super duper powerful, because every chord that you learn now, well, you've learned it at least 12 different ways. You can move it up and down the fretboard, but then if you can move it over to the 5th string, now you've got 24 different ways that you can do it. This is how I teach all my chords inside the courses, right? Makes it very, very quickly to stack up hundreds and thousands of chords, hundreds or thousands of chords, okay? Not hundreds and thousands of chords. Yes, I said that right. Okay. Great question. Ella Fitzgerald, is it live or Memorex? Yeah, that's right. It was Ella Fitzgerald. She was sang this note and psh. Hi, I've read about the Hendrix chord. Can you explain it, please? Yes. Okay, so perfect example. Here it is. Right? So from... that chord right there. Okay, let's analyze this here. I know it's a 7th chord. I think it's a 7 flat 9 off the top of my head, but let's analyze it. So what we have is we got the 1, and I got to know that. I know it's in the key of E because Purple Haze is in the key of E, and so and that particular chord, well, just because it's in the key of E doesn't mean the chord's in the key of E. So, but I know that this particular one is because I've been asked about it enough and was kind of interested in it myself at one point. And so here, this is an E, That's an E, so we're talking about the 1 there. This next note is a 3 for 1, 2, 3. Let's drill down here. So here's our chord. So this is an E. It's not an inversion. I just know this because I've taught this before. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. There's our 3. Then we got this note here, which is our 7th. I know it off the top of my head. It's a flat 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Flat 7. And then we got this guy, which is a well, we can call that a minor third. Hold on. That's not right. Oh, that's right. Okay, so here's the deal. We've got a major third and a minor third in there. Very unusual, but we don't call it. A chord typically doesn't have a major and a minor third in it. Now this is going to get a little bit confusing, but it's okay. It's more advanced type of chordal type stuff. You're not going to understand it unless you go through the steps. Let me say that again. Please don't beat yourself up if you don't understand this. That would be like me looking at a kindergartner and wondering why he or she couldn't do 5th grade stuff. If they hadn't gone through the other grades, why would I expect them to know that? So why should you expect that you should know this if you haven't gone through all the steps, right? So don't beat yourself up if you don't know. But here's a 1. Here's a major third, or a 3. Here's a flat 7, also known as the 7th. This is called a major 7. That's called the flat 7. And we got this guy here, which is also a minor 7th or a flat 7. I'm sorry, it's a minor third or flat 3rd. Okay, but we're not calling it that. We're calling it a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's a sharp 9. Let me do this again. Watch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Remember I said if you can count to 7, we'll be able to do 7th chords, and if you can count to 13, then you're a real genius, because now you've just like 8 times your chord vocabulary. And so what we do is when we get beyond the 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or well, let's call it a 1 again. 1, no, let's call it an 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we can go 9, 10, 11, and keep going. Now here's our 11 for the 11th note. But in this case here, we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And the note is this. So it's a sharp 9. Okay, it's a sharp 9 chord. Now, most people will call it a 7th sharp 9. So it would be an E7 sharp 9. That's the way you'll see it written usually. Okay, because a lot of folks don't understand that usually when we play a 9th chord, there's a 7th thrown in there. It just is. It's just part of the formula. It's just like if we have a 5, we usually have the 3 in there. If we have a 7, we usually have the 5 and the 3 in there. It's just we're stacking 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. This is why I said earlier that on a 7-note chord, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, we got 7 notes with a 6-string guitar. We can't play 7 notes, so we have to take out a note. But with that being said, we need to be able to find a way to analyze this using the major scale. We would call that the E7 sharp 9. So not a flat 9, like I said. Yeah. Okay. All right. We won't say any more about that. I could go down the rabbit hole there, which I did. Okay. Is it smart to play the same song in 12 keys every day with the same inversions of the triad? That is what I am doing to be fluent in 12 keys. Sounds boring. Stephanie, here's what I would suggest you doing. Yes, it is boring. It will make you a better player, but there is a happy medium to playing music where if you're not loving playing music, then chances are just psychologically you're not going to pick the instrument up anymore as much. If you're just like, I don't want to do all that. Well then, if that was the last experience you had with the instrument, what would make you want to pick it up? So this is how I think about the instrument, is that if I practiced for 16 hours a day, like I did when I was a kid sometimes, I would practice all day long, then I would exhaust all these different possibilities, and I was so excited about the guitar that I would do stuff like that. And it made me a much better player. But chances are, most folks don't have that much time to do that. So you want to be very focused with your practice. Practice stuff that's fun. Practice the stuff that's moving you forward, etc., etc. So, so I would not do that. What I would do is understand music. I tell you what, Stephanie, following the answering the question, why is it that you want to play guitar? I have a video for this on YouTube. You probably could search YourGuitarSage Y, W-H-Y, and that will get you more into this understanding of why it is that you're playing guitar, because if you can answer that question, it will truly help you understand what it is that you should be practicing, how much you should be practicing, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so a better idea here, Stephanie, is I would say, is to understand the formulas and understand how they, like, if what you want to do is play cover songs, then, you know, there's certain things that you probably don't need to be practicing, okay? So that's what I would suggest, okay? How useful do you consider dominant chords in general? How useful? I would consider them really important because next to the one chord, they're the most played chord. There are tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of songs that have been written, probably millions of songs at this point, that you'll never hear, that are in the heads of people that have died and that are living that you'll never hear. But nonetheless, millions and millions of songs that have been written from just the 1 and 5 chord, okay? In fact, the Beatles have several songs that are just written off the 1 chord. Okay, George Harrison loved doing that. Within You, Without You, the other very Indian-sounding song, nonetheless, just the 1 chord. Next set of chords is the 1 and the 5, and so many country songs have been written just from the 1 and 5. Then the 1-4-5, then the 1-4-5 minor 6, and those combinations, those different formulas. But nonetheless, those are the ingredients used. Okay, so dominant, very important. Okay. All right. Yeah. Mark is saying, can you play the beginning of Diary of a Madman? It seems that would sound close to what you're speaking of as far as tones and diminished. Yeah. So it's really not. I mean, we can listen to it essentially, but. You know, I'm not going to analyze these chords, but yeah, he's using a lot of. Let's see. I forget how to play this, guys. It's been a while. And then the big rock scene comes in, and love that song. Beautiful song. When you're doing lead improvisation, are you consciously thinking about the rhythm you are playing? Triplets? Nope, I'm not thinking about any of that. No, you just play from the gut. You know, you learn them, and then when you're in the zone, you forget about them. Just like today, I knew what it was that I was going to talk about, but I didn't know I'd be saying these exact words at this specific time, right? You improvise, and you do this all day long, Yusuf. We all do. When we wake up, we don't have every moment planned and everything that we're going to say. We have a basic idea. I'm going to go to the market. I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing, right? So, but yeah, you just kind of do it on the fly. All right, great questions. I see people playing solos, and they'll throw a chord into it. Is it a way of keeping time, or is it a technique for leading into another run? Jared, typically it's just like painting a different style for a moment because you want to express yourself in a different way, you know? Am I vibrating in the key of sarcastic sage? You know I am. I tend to be that way. Okay. Hello, Eric. When should I receive my login information for the veteran UGS? I submitted my form a little over a week ago. I can't wait to start your lessons. Beautify Your Life, 18. It could be that you received it already and it went into your spam, which in this case here, what I would say is, well, normally I'd say email support at YourGuitarSage.com with all the information that, right, you've done already. Or just say, hey, I'm still waiting, here's my email, and they'll check it for you. But if they send you another email and it goes into your spam, it's just this incessant loop, right? So, but do that. Go ahead and do that, and then also check your spam in the meanwhile. Make sure that the email didn't go there, because by now we should have them all taken care of, I think. I'm pretty sure. So Beautify Your Life, I apologize that you haven't gotten it yet. Please email support at YourGuitarSage.com. Please tell them, hey, haven't received it yet. Here's my email, here's my name, etc. And they'll get you set up. But also check your spam, okay? Okay. So the 5th always wants to go to the 1, and the 4 goes to the 5 or the 1st. It can do either. It doesn't always have to, okay? But yeah, that's typically where it goes. Okay. I do not speak Greek, Herc. I apologize. I don't know anything like that. E pluribus unum. It's probably Latin. I don't even know what it means. Guthrie Trapp, who you probably know, yes, made a video with Papa Stash talking about solo. He's a beast. Guthrie Trapp, you guys need to check that guy out. Amazing guitar player. I've actually spoken with him a few times and seen him play live here in Nashville. He's a great, amazing guitar player. Amazing. Trapp, who probably, you know, with a video with Papa Stash talking about soloing using the note in the chord being played. Yes, it was extremely melodic. How much do you use this chording soloing? Yeah, I use it all the time, and I have videos for it inside of inside the Unstoppable Guitar System and inside YouTube. I call it Chasing the Chord. Okay. All right. Awesome. Really quickly, I'm going to go over to Facebook just to make sure there's no folks that I missed there, since I've been on YouTube a lot, and I know there's probably another question in there. So let me go backwards and make sure there's none in there. Eric, how do you get your blues soloing to sound more melodic? Charlie, practice, practice, practice. Use small sections. So small sections of a blues scale, like 4, maybe 5 notes, 3 notes even. Get that one little area and just solo. And what I mean, how long? Do it till you're kind of bored and you're like, okay, I got this. But if you're like, oh, I still don't have this, I wonder if more notes will work. Don't do that. If you can't get 3 notes down, just like juggling, if you can't juggle 3 balls, 4 and 5 probably isn't going to help you. So make sure you get those 3 down in one specific area, right? And then go to another 3, get those down, etc., etc. Like I teach inside the course, right? Call and response, also minimalistic blues. I have videos for both of those on YouTube. Just search those, Your Guitar Sage minimalistic blues, Your Guitar Sage call and response. That's how to do it. Tom is saying the 1-3-5 triad construction. Do you use those based on the C scale? Like instead of the scale using sharps and flats, is that relative to the chord you're playing? Yeah, I use it relative to the chord I'm playing. So, so not necessarily the C scale, but the major scale, and that's probably what you meant, Tom. Check the PDF for that. Speaking of which, if you haven't downloaded the PDF, friends, do it, do it, do it. It's really, really important because it's going to help you understand this stuff, okay? All right. I've looked all over the opening chord for Hard Day's Night. What do you play as that opening chord? I forget off the top of my head, but I think it might be a 6 chord. I'm pretty sure it's a 6 chord. Okay, and John, we answered that one about the Hendrix chord, right? Oh, what happened to the glasses? You owned that look. Thanks, Frank. I haven't worn my glasses in a while. I need to wear them again. I was having some issues with my contacts, and now I'm not so much. Are you making, or have you already made, a UGS guitar strap? Scott, I haven't. But you're right. We need to have a UGS guitar strap, right? But do you want to have UGS on your guitar strap? Maybe we made it cool enough, but that's like a commitment, right? I don't know. I don't have a problem making it. I just don't know if anybody would buy it. But I think one person would. Great question. All right, just make sure there's no last questions here. Any updates on the guitar production? Yeah, I spoke with John Scott. Everything is done as far as the neck and as far as the body. And now I need to schedule a time to go over there as he's painting it. Because it's, but I can tell you that this first one is going to be a blue burst. Okay, so it's going to be blue, like a deep blue here, and it's going to burst into black. Okay, and then, and it's going to be stained. Okay, not painted. Mark is saying on Facebook, hi Eric, when I'm playing open chords, I find my open G rings out louder. Okay, we did that one. The open G rings out louder and longer than the others when changing from one chord to the other. Okay, so Mark, the way I read that earlier was that it was that it might have been the string, but yeah, it could be just the chord. Meaning the vibration of the guitar is vibrating to that specific chord. That's what I mean by that. Okay. I know it isn't regarding today's lessons, but is there something in the UGS regarding changing strings and tuning on a Floyd Rose? Scott, no, but there are videos for that on YouTube. I don't have plans on making one of those. Although I have them, I have Floyd Rose guitars, I haven't planned on doing that. Who will be in my priority? I don't know what that means, my friend. What model is John making? He's making a signature guitar for me. So it's going to essentially be a Strat body, except you're going to be able to reach a little bit more here. I'm doing a little bit more of a cutaway. Some other sorts of very small tweaks to the Strat body. But to me, the Strat body is I'm looking at my Les Paul as if it is a Strat body, but the Strat body to me makes a lot of sense. So does the Les Paul, but the Strat body makes more sense to me because where are you going to put your thumb here on this Les Paul? You got to do this if you want to get up here or kind of do this funky reach here. So that's what I love about the Strat style. It's going to have a humbucker, single coil, and another single coil here that's going to be a little bit more, have a little bit more output, a little bit more bottom end, a little bit more gusto, so it's going to be a little bit more like a P90-ish or a high-powered, clean, high-powered single coil, high output. All right, so there you go. Hold on, do I support, hold on, that's a weird little question here. Do I support versatility in terms of music? Versatility. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but I think it's important to be versatile. Yeah, if that's what you're asking. Eric, how do you get your blues? Okay, so I think I've been through all the questions here. That was how to get the blues to sound more melodic. Do you suggest Rockstar for PlayStation 4? Is it a good practice aid? There's nothing that beats just sitting down with a guitar and learning a song, Ron. But if you got to play video games, Rocksmith is a great one to play because you got the guitar in your hand and you're playing with a metronome or some sort of rhythm, right? So that's really cool. Can I suggest a guitar for model budget $200 USD? Avic, yes. Go to. I tell you what, we'll post it on the screen here. Go to my store, which is kit.com/YourGuitarSage. Kit.com/YourGuitarSage. You can see the link right there on the screen. Go there, and I have all sorts of suggestions for pedals, amplifiers, acoustic guitars, electric guitars, ones that I've tried out, ones that I've done reviews for, etc., ones that I know about, okay? There's a ton of other stuff I could put on there, but these are ones that I'm like, hey, I highly suggest these, okay, for their price and or playability, etc., okay? All right, my friends, that is it for right now. I'd love to keep I would love to keep getting to these questions, but alas, our time here is done. We've got other things we got to do. We've got more videos to make, other things to do. Okay, so join us back here tomorrow, 11 a.m. CDT, that's Central, okay? And we're going to be doing part 2 of this. We'll be covering some of the basics again. We'll be going faster over the basics. I found that this way works better for those folks that have been here today. They get to get the advanced stuff, and for those that didn't apply yesterday, we're going to do the beginner stuff again, refresh it for those that know it or that have been here already, and then but we'll still get to the nitty gritty later on. And for those folks that weren't here today, at least they'll have a basic brief overview of it. That with the PDF, they're going to be good. Out of many, one. Thank you. Our national motto, e pluribus unum. Thank you, Brian. I should know that, shouldn't I? Out of many, one. It's pretty cool. Okay, awesome. My friends, thank you so much for being here today. You guys rule. A couple things to do real quick. Share this video. Do that, because every single time you do this, and look, I don't know how many folks we have here, maybe 100, 200, I don't know. But every single time you do this, it increases your chances of winning. So if you're doing this twice, right? Twice a week for, say we do this for 50 times. Well, we don't do it 50, but let's say we do it for 50 times out of the year. That's 100 chances to win these, plus all the other giveaways that we do. Chances are you're going to win. So do it. Share it, friends. Share this on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you can share it. Share it, and that will give you an opportunity to win a lifetime membership to both the Unstoppable Guitar System and 365. That's how we do it now. Okay, that, and make sure you get the PDF. Very important that you get that, because it's got the links in there for you today. We've got a special that's going to be going, I think, through the end of tomorrow. And I think, please don't sue me if I'm wrong, but I think it's 50% off of the products, of all the products. I'm pretty sure. That being said, apparel coming soon. Be watching social media and that sort of thing. And is there anything else? Anything else I need to tell them? Guys, I don't think so. I think that's it. Okay, friends, I love you guys. Thank you so much. Great questions. I'll see you tomorrow, 11 a.m. CDT. All right?